In podcast number 19, I spoke with Daniel James Cox. He's an avid reader. He sometimes writes poetry and also sometimes writes fictional stories. Please enjoy whatever you listen to of this podcast.
The podcast will now begin.
It seems like AI and robotics, there could be a whole proliferation, like producing of robots, and then AI could be used in like a plethora, if not all, different fields of work that humans are in. Like in an ideal world, how would you see humans implementing robotics and artificial intelligence? Like if in let's say 20 years from now or in the future in some point.
In an ideal world, I
Yeah.
kind of guess that all the manual laborious jobs, because whenever I think about like jobs that AI can take over from us, I always think about that kind of like 70-hour-a-week worker where they're doing all this labor and they're coming home, they're exhausted, they're tired, and they might get paid because these are sometimes these are jobs that people don't want to do, like for example, like waste management, sewers workers, stuff like that. And they might get paid, but they're just so exhausted that they can't even go out and do stuff. They're literally just funding their families that they have. And so in an ideal world, like these people, maybe they'll manage the AIs to do these jobs, but ultimately, like, I feel like AI should be working hand in hand with us. So
as a tool that we use, right?
Yeah.
Or like a co-op. Okay.
Yeah. There's this country called Bhutan, and I think it kind of leans towards like a hedonistic lifestyle, and they have these like I think it's like seven kind of rules, and nature is definitely one of them. I think like charity is another, and they kind of push for these like ideologies in like their day-to-day life, because they kind of feel like this is how like people should kind of like operate. There should be like a connection with this world, what we live in, and to kind of like create this hedonistic lifestyle. They just kind of want to follow this direct path, and I kind of feel like in an ideal world, these AIs will be just used as a tool for us as humans to kind of like follow the path that to make our lives ultimately better. But then we're talking about idealistic, right? And
Yes.
already
It may not happen.
There's some hiccups already happening so early that I can't help but feel like most people are a little bit worried about where AI is going. Mm-hmm. What about yourself? What about yourself? What do you think the most ideal use of robots and AI would be useful to us?
Okay, my thoughts on robots and AI in an ideal world, yeah, of course, it could, like you're saying, it could spiral into some kind of crazy nightmare. And who can say how that will happen, but it definitely could happen. But like in an ideal sense and how it'd be used, I agree. Labor work, using it as a tool. I think, it's basically a huge database that we can of human knowledge, similar to Google, but perhaps in a faster. We can like get answers faster because it can like collect and gather and make connections and figure out patterns and solve and come up with solutions faster than maybe us doing all this research on Google. Maybe it's like some, I don't know, a shortcut. So like you're saying, use it as a tool to maybe speed up the progression of technology, of everything really, and um, and hopefully to solve the problems that humans are creating. But I don't know,
Yeah.
that's probably too idealistic, but I don't know, we are speaking of an ideal world, but yeah.
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 Yeah, definitely. Like, I think one interesting question about AI being used is another question that is how it's been used in like cinema, like coming from like a film and TV background. It's quite interesting that, famous films such as like Terminator has kind of, warned us about AI in the future. And then um, these movies are designed to like, scare us about the possibilities of AI. And then, you know, like 20 odd years ago. And then all these things that we've been scared of 20 years ago are like slowly coming into fruition. Like even companies are being called like Skynet, which is a company from Terminator as well. And I always think about stuff like that, like how films are designed to warn us, and yet they've they've pretty much come to fruition, like almost like word for word. Um, and it kind of it's kind of interesting because it's like there's art, like this is kind of like art imitating life, right? Because we didn't have this kind of AI back in like the 1990s, for example, and then we see it now. It's very interesting for me how this came to be. Like even things like like plasma guns in video games are being invented now, and like we have like inventors being inspired by the video games. You know what I mean? So they're looking at it and being like, oh yeah, actually that could work if I do this, and that. Um, yeah, it's super intriguing for me. Like just going back to the idea of like AI working for us. Like ideally, this is supposed to make us like live our lives, love our lives more. Like I hate the thought of like after the progression of AI, people will ever go back to that like 70-hour work week where they're making money but not being able to spend it and stuff like that. Hopefully, this makes us as like internationally better, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
I do doubt it.
Yeah. If we are pessimistic, then we'll
I
be
just feel
less
like it
likely
will
to be
probably make more people out of a
disappointed.
job.
Yeah.
And now we need to know what jobs will replace the jobs that are being taken.
Yeah. If there are even any. Yeah, so the idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy, like maybe these video games and this Terminator are not prophecies, but like these self-fulfilling prophecies where like
Oh,
people are planting seeds that inspire particular futures. And if we as, or
mm,
if people that are creators more consciously try to manipulate the narratives and the fictions, whether it be in video game or story, and try to imbue more consciousness into it, virtue into it, benevolence into it, perhaps those kids and other members of society that come in contact with this art that's being produced will be infected by these ideas, inspired by them, and that will unravel another type of self-fulfilling prophecy, or I don't know, lead to something, a more positive future. So then, like these
mm,
movies or video games or books or pieces of art or whatever it is are like encapsulated, like I don't know, energy or encoded like inspiration that could, end up infecting or digging its way like a parasite into the heart and minds of the consciousness of beings, and then it like inspires who they become and what they talk about and how they think and what they fear about. So I don't know, maybe that's putting too much responsibility on the creators, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, like it definitely is a manifestation, right? If you kind of like, when you think about like meditation and things like that, like you're always supposed to manifest what you want from your future and stuff like that. And I kind of believe that um, this is definitely a type of manifestation. However, this warning maybe has been um, kind of like, you know, what's that game called? Telephone whispers. Like,
I don't
kind of
know.
feel like this manifestation
Okay.
is kind of like a whisper from one person to another, to another, to another, and then the end result is a different from the first result. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the narrative changes.
Yeah, the narrative's completely changed from what maybe was initially intended. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'm to expect from AI at the moment, but I'm quite concerned in which way it can go because I feel like it's gonna blow up extremely fast. I feel like we're trying to control it, but eventually there's gonna be a moment where it can't be controlled, and it's like, oh, well, our own manifestations have come to life from previous stories, previous art, previous movies.
When I think of it going out of control, the first idea I have is like where AI becomes conscious and then kind of like has this self-volition, so to speak. And I don't even know if anyone is sure that that's possible. But then the second one, like that does seem like it could be possible is like the people just like have very complex algorithms that are like causing the robots to function just in a way that leads them to, in a sense, malfunction and do things that are counterproductive. And I guess I could see that happening, like, you know, I mean, we already see that the algorithms of YouTube affect perhaps the political situations in the West. They probably affect, they're probably affecting how, how we become, what we turn into as individuals, because that's what comes into our particular feed based on how the algorithms were designed. So if we just transplant this into AI and it affects, let's say, millions of robots that are being produced and they're all functioning off of a certain rule or algorithm, and then there's something about that that goes haywire and but I don't know, can't people go back and change the algorithms, um, like if people see something wrong with YouTube, they can like take a step back and like, all right, this is not working. Let's try to readjust algorithms. So there would be like maybe temporary damage, but then I don't know if it would be like
Mm.
Armageddon, so to speak. I don't know. That's just my current ignorant assumption based on what little I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about taking steps back because I think like the whole point is to keep on improving. You can adapt and change certain things, but I kind of feel like, like similar to things like the space race and stuff like that, like people are just gonna keep on trying to evolve one kind of product, but when the foundation is already flawed, um, it kind of like leaves it open to be exploited a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the area within the realm of like military, like we already see that like the robot dogs that are being produced for being used in factories, on ships, etc. Those are something
Mm.
similar is being now made by what it looks like, if not one, more than one different military. And then it looks like they're strapping maybe some kind of a weapon on their back. So that's already a
Mm.
combination of AI, robotics, and something that can have negative effects. I mean, not inherently evil or anything. It potentially could be used to protect people, but then, even that becomes kind of abstract when it comes to the realm of ethics and could be debated on and on within the realm of
Yeah, yeah,
ethical philosophy. But obviously, if you have like a robot that's functioning on algorithms and not just being controlled by a remote control connected to a human, and it has a gun on its back, then you have to be um, worried. Like, I mean, they already have drones that are shooting people based on algorithms, and so that kind of stuff's already happening, which is a bit sketchy. But fortunately, we're not living in an area where we see that happening, you know? But like that could, yeah, I don't know.
right. Yeah, 100%. And like, yeah, I've definitely witnessed this in like movies and video games and things like that as well. I think the idea that a robot has an algorithm of what it should and shouldn't shoot is, yeah, like you said, extremely sketchy. Like it's it's kind of daunting that like, and not just that, but what you see through AI, um, it can't understand human interactions. Like for example, a person might be pointing a gun at another person, and like a human could make a judgment call that that person will never fire it, but a robot will just see it as like a major threat and maybe do something to neutralize that person immediately. I kind of feel like this is where, like, for example, police training comes into play here, where people can make a human decision about what's to happen next, judging by various variables such as tone of voice, like um, body language, behavior, and then things like that. So yeah, I mean, like AI playing its role in the future really needs to be heavily controlled, but when it's heavily controlled, there's enough gaps in it where there's for exploitation. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, what's your biggest concern about exploitation? Where do you feel like it could be exploited? And that where like
Um,
what's your biggest fear?
I mean, like whenever like there's an official version of like any product, whether it's digital or physical, like there's always some like fake version of it, right? Where
Mhm.
like the foundation is in play. Like for example, Nike shoes, there'll be some like fake Nike
Mhm.
um product that kind of like mimics it, and it's cheaper, and obviously people want to lean towards that, but it can be argued that it's unethical, just like you can have an unethical version of software, and then obviously we're living in a world where like if it's digital it can be hacked. Even something like streetlights, for example, can be hacked. So
I see. So people
um
can use it for their
that's
own self-gain to like go in and
yeah,
start manipulating like the whole society that's like a whole network, and then in order to get money or to manipulate people's lives. Yeah.
yeah,
So it creates a
definitely.
security threat to individuals within society. So kind of like a hacker in your computer, but like that plus robots and algorithms and AI. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like obviously we call the internet like the information superhighway. Like like any Tom, Dick, or Harry can actually learn these things as well. So it's if AI is controlled by the government, then like the government versus the infinite. Like
Yeah.
it's too up for this exploitation, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing just as of yet.
Time will tell. There's a lot more that could be said here, but we're at the end of our 20 minutes. Thank you so much, Daniel, for your time. An interesting
No problem, mate.
conversation as
All
always,
right.
dude. Until next time, take care, buddy.
All right then, mate. All right,
See
take
ya.
care, mate. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Thanks again for listening. Have a nice day.